we're looking at the HSC Core 1 Critical Question 2 summary video. Now this video will most definitely be split up into two parts. While we've only covered 3 dot points, okay, which are groups, high levels of preventable conditions and growing and aging population, those dot points within them had multiple subsections, okay? So like when we looked at groups, you know, we looked at 2 very distinct groups. When we looked at conditions, we looked at 3 distinct conditions. So it's actually the equivalent of like 6 dot points worth of work for 3 videos. So I probably will split this up. I've tried to summarize this as best as possible, just looking at exactly what it states in the syllabus. So like for example, when we look at groups, you know, nature, extent, determinants, roles, okay? And then when we get on to the high levels of conditions, looking at the syllabus dot points at the right side of the syllabus dashes there too. So we'll see how we go, okay? Finally, to try and make this a little bit easier to get through in a timely process, I'm actually going to put up some type notes as opposed to me writing them all out. Yeah, let's do it. So the first one we're looking at looks at groups experiencing health inequities. The first group that we looked at were Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, okay? Now the first part of that was looking at the nature and extent, okay? And this should be used to like answer questions such as, you know, what is the nature and extent of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people's health inequities, okay? So nature. Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people's health inequities can be attributed to many reasons, including their lower education, geographic location, lower income, and poor health / behaviour modelling from their family members, so like their parents, grandparents, etc. Remember, it's a cycle, and we're trying to break that cycle through the Closing the Gap initiative. The extent of their health inequities, so we know that Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander peoples have lower life expectancy, and that's about 9.5 years. They have higher rates of diabetes, higher infant mortality, and higher chronic illness overall, okay? Now, looking at the determinants that can be used to explain these health inequities, okay? So we've got socioeconomic, sociocultural, and environmental determinants that we're going to look at. So our socioeconomic determinants, we know that Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander peoples have lower income due to a lack of high-paying jobs, which impacts their ability to engage health services and therefore protective health behaviours, okay? You know, such as regular checkups, all that kind of stuff. This can be due to their location, so if they live rurally and remotely, they're going to have less access to higher educations, or just due to lower education levels overall, so like not attending high school. Not completing high school or not attending a TAFE or university will greatly restrict their qualifications, which therefore you would require for better paying careers, okay? You know, so if you're going to be a carpenter or an electrician, that's much, much better than just flipping burgers at Macca's. And also results in a greater risk behaviours from their lack of knowledge, okay? So sometimes people do things to hurt their health without actively knowing that it's bad for them, okay? Like most people studying PhD will know that like smoking is bad for you. But a lot of people will just know in general, oh, smoking is not good for your health, but they don't actually realise what's happening in the body when you smoke. So now we're looking at socio-cultural determinants. Children who stay home due to care for their family or their younger siblings, they have restricted educational outcomes, okay? So if you're not at school because you're looking after your brother and your sister because your mum and dad are both at work all day and all night in low-paying jobs or whatever, then, you know, that's going to, therefore, once again, continue that cycle that we talk about. Families who model poor health behaviours, such as smoking, poor diet, alcohol consumption, other substance consumptions, etc., inadvertently influence their children to do the same, as they see this as normal behaviour, all right? Culturally, family is of high importance to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and therefore staying with their family unit, if they are located rurally and remotely, can actually hinder their health outcomes, all right? So even though young Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples may have the education around the fact that they probably need to move to more metropolitan areas to access health services and education and employment, etc., because of their connection to family and connection to the land as well, generally don't want to move away. So there is a bit of, that's tough. That's a tough one, okay? Environmental determinants. Geographic location limits access to primary health services, which may restrict the treatment or detection of illnesses until later stages, okay? So we know that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have much higher rates of diabetes. If you were getting regular checkups, and you know, one of the common tests that you would do, that a GP does, is like blood glucose levels, okay? So if you're able to pick that up over time and realize that blood glucose levels are increasing, GPs can actually prescribe medication to help regulate those levels before diabetes actually sets in, which is good. So that's preventative, okay? But if you're not getting those checkups and then you don't do it until all of a sudden you just start passing out, for example, and then you go and check your checkout and well, you've got diabetes, well, that sucks, okay? Access to health facilities due to location means less support is available for concerns such as like mental health, okay, which Aboriginal and Torres Strait people have much higher rates of, or childbirth concerns, okay? We know that, and like in that prenatal space as well, like we know that Aboriginal and Torres Strait people have much higher rates of infant mortality. Location also restricts available employment opportunities, impacting therefore on their socioeconomic determinants. And then finally, we've got the roles of the key government, community, and individuals. Government, correctly identified priority health areas, okay, allocating funding, developing health promotion initiatives, that's HPIs, public policy and legislation aimed at promoting positive change, all right? So it is the government's role and the epidemiologists to actually look at the data and go, how can we best address the needs of Aboriginal and Torres Strait peoples and improve their health outcomes. Funding is therefore allocated to communities with greater needs, okay? So just because you're Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander, like I am, doesn't necessarily mean that I suffer from all these conditions, okay? It's still on a community basis, all right? And closing the gap funding to improve health and education has been circulating now for about 10, 15 years. The Closing the Gap program has not been successful so far, but they're still hopeful that they're going to achieve outcomes by 2030, which is not on track currently. Communities. Communities should be empowered to use government fundings and programs to address health inequities, okay? So it's the government's role to implement all these programs and fundings, but then the community needs to embrace that, okay? And then obviously distribute that to its members, which then feeds down to the individual level, which we'll get to in a minute. Community elders should also be involved in the consultation process to engage their members to make change, such as eliminating smoking while pregnant, or eliminating alcohol and high sugar foods from like community shops. Especially if you live rurally and remotely, you may only have one or two shops in the local town. So like communities can actually engage with that shop and say, we don't want to buy this stuff because it's bad for our community and bad for the health. Can you please stop stocking it? And that has happened and does happen, which is good. Encouraging the youth in the community to stay in education, okay? We know there's a direct link there between at least a base level of education. And by a base level, I mean like just even finishing the ROSA end of year 10, okay? A lot of times, even though it's mandatory, it doesn't happen. It should happen all the time, okay? And especially PDHP, because we're talking about health, and PDHP is the subject we learn about health, and yeah, a lot of people don't see the importance in PDHP, like, you know, wow, I'm going on a rant. Very short rant. Like, kids sit in nap plan all the time, all right? Like from like years 3, 5, 7, 9, okay? Nap plan. Oh, we've got to test their literacy and numeracy because that's the best indicator of their outcomes in life. Well, no. If you don't live very long and you don't have a good quality of life, isn't that a more important outcome in life? Like, why aren't we doing PDHP in that plan? Like, do you know? Anyway, like I said, stop rant, moving on. Individuals need to embrace the change, okay? And advice provided by the government and the community, all right? Be a support for change, all right? So if the government is telling you to do a thing and then the community and the elders in the community are encouraging you to do the thing, then you should do the thing and you should feel empowered by that. You'd be like, I am actually actively working to make my life better and the lives around me better, because people influence each other, okay? Choosing to further your education and make healthy decisions and protective behaviours, okay? So e.g., choosing to eliminate daily alcohol consumption and only having 1 or 2 drinks on the weekend, okay? For a lot of people, that is a massive change, okay? So instead of having 1 or 2 drinks a day, or even more a day, which a lot of people and a lot of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander peoples with alcohol issues do, saying, okay, well, let's embrace as a community, let's all support each other, and let's only have drinks on Friday and Saturday, and on Friday and Saturday, let's just have 2, okay? So while obviously having 2 drinks on Friday and 2 drinks on Saturday is still not great for your health, okay, because no amount of alcohol is actually good for your health, okay, alcohol is a poison in the body, that is still significantly better than having those 2 drinks every day, okay? And that is Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander peoples in a nutshell.